I never thought my own family could betray me like this. One night, left outside in the freezing cold, I realized I had to take matters into my own hands, and I did, in ways they never saw coming. Hello, my name is Margaret Maggie Sullivan, and I'm 72 years old. I never imagined I'd be the kind of person to plot revenge. I spent most of my life giving love, giving advice, giving everything I had to my children and my home. But some nights, some people, they show you their true colors. And mine came on a bitter November evening that I'll never forget. It was just past 9 when I arrived at my daughter's house. My granddaughter had a recital that afternoon, and I had driven 4 hours to see her perform. I was tired, yes, but my heart was full. I rang the doorbell, suitcase in hand, my coat wrapped tightly around me against the biting wind. No answer. I rang again. And again. I could hear the muffled sounds of laughter inside, voices, my family. I pounded harder, my knuckles stinging, my heart racing, and finally, through the slightly cracked window, I saw it. My daughter, Claire, and her husband, Jason, were smiling at me, with that infuriating smirk that said, "You don't belong here." "Mom, what are you doing?" Claire called, feigning confusion. "Open the door," I shouted. "It's freezing out here, and I just want to come in." Jason leaned casually against the counter, arms crossed, and said, "Sorry, Mom. We're busy. You should have told us you were coming." His voice was calm, casual, like telling me I'd left my umbrella behind. The door remained firmly shut. I was stunned. My own family, after everything I'd done for them, was leaving me on the porch in the dark. The cold crept through my coat, chilling me to the bone, but it wasn't the cold that cut deepest, it was the betrayal. I didn't cry then, not yet. I couldn't. I felt my hands tighten around the suitcase handle. My mind began to race, every memory flashing before me, the countless nights I stayed up nursing a sick child, the money I lent them when they were desperate, the sacrifices I made so their lives could be comfortable. And now, this. I remember sitting on the cold stone steps for a while, my breath forming little clouds in the night air, staring up at the windows where laughter still echoed. I felt a strange calm wash over me, a quiet, dangerous clarity. If they thought this was the end of Maggie Sullivan, they were terribly wrong. By morning, I had a plan. I wasn't going to beg, plead, or cry. I wasn't going to be the powerless victim they thought I was. I had spent decades building a modest fortune, carefully invested, quietly managed. And now, it was time for it to do its work. I called my lawyer, a longtime friend, and explained everything. They were shocked, but supportive. "You've been wronged, Maggie. You're not the kind of woman to sit in the cold. Let's fix this." I spent the next week quietly preparing. I researched their finances, their habits, their weaknesses. Every casual remark they had made, every brag about money or property, became ammunition in my mind. And then came the perfect moment, a small slip, a minor oversight on their part that I could exploit. I smiled when I saw it, a slow, dangerous smile that hadn't graced my face in years. When I finally made my move, it wasn't loud. It wasn't violent. It was cold, meticulous, and undeniable. I walked through that front door not with force, not with anger, but with the legal right and authority they never expected me to assert. Their shock was delicious. Claire's mouth dropped open, Jason's confident posture crumbled. I let them stew in their own panic for a moment, letting the weight of their betrayal sink in. As I settled into the living room that was once theirs as well, I realized something important. Revenge isn't just about taking back what was yours, it's about taking control, reclaiming your dignity, proving that no one can treat you as expendable. I poured myself a cup of tea, the warmth seeping into my fingers, and watched as they scrambled, powerless, around the house that was mine just as much as theirs. That night, I slept in my granddaughter's old room. I let the memories of betrayal wash over me, but instead of bitterness, I felt a kind of triumphant clarity. I wasn't a victim. I was Margaret Sullivan, 72 years old, and finally, I had the last laugh. The next morning, I woke up before the sun, the soft golden light spilling through the curtains. The house was quiet, eerily quiet, and for the first time, I felt the full weight of my own power. I moved slowly, deliberately, making sure every step I took was measured, controlled. I wasn't just reclaiming a home, I was reclaiming years of disrespect, of being taken for granted. Breakfast was the first test. Claire came down, her hair messy, pajamas clinging to her like a half-forgotten shadow of her usual composure. She opened her mouth to scold, to demand an explanation, but I cut her off before she could even start. "Sit," I said, my voice calm but carrying the authority I hadn't used in years. "You'll eat, and then you'll listen." Her eyes widened, disbelief painted across her face. Jason followed, coffee in hand, trying to maintain his usual arrogance, but the tension was already biting at him. He knew that the game had changed. I poured coffee for all of us, every movement slow, intentional. I could see the panic flicker across their faces as they realized I wasn't just back, I had leverage. "I hope you don't mind," I said lightly, "that I've made some arrangements. Some adjustments." Claire's voice trembled. "Mom, what are you talking about?" I smiled sweetly, but it didn't reach my eyes. "You locked me out last week, in the freezing cold, and now it's your turn to feel a little exposure." Jason swallowed hard. I could see the panic beginning to seep in, the rigid confidence crumbling. It was satisfying, yes, but I didn't gloat. Not yet. Power, I had learned, was far sweeter when savored quietly. Over the next few days, I set my plan into motion. It wasn't a matter of violence or shouting, it was a chess game, and I was 10 moves ahead. I contacted their bank, provided proof of my rightful claim to portions of their property, explained quietly that some assets had been mismanaged, and hinted at legal consequences. Slowly, the walls of their comfortable life began to tremble. They whispered, argued behind closed doors, and tried to regain control, but I had already claimed the narrative. The emotional tension was exquisite. Claire stopped making casual remarks about money, stopped treating me like an inconvenience. Jason became more cautious, more defensive, and I reveled silently in watching them unravel. But it wasn't cruelty for cruelty's sake. I wanted them to understand the weight of betrayal, the cold emptiness of turning your back on someone who gave everything for you. One evening, I sat in the living room, the fire crackling in the hearth, and Claire approached cautiously. "Mom, please. Can we talk?" Her voice was small, fragile, the bravado completely gone. I gestured for her to sit. I wanted her to feel the gravity of my calm, the inevitability of what was coming. "I don't need apologies," I said quietly. "I just need you to understand that this," I waved my hand around the living room, "isn't just about money or property. It's about respect. Something you failed to give me." She nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. Jason remained in the background, silent but tense. I let the pause linger, letting the silence speak volumes. Sometimes words aren't needed when every glance, every hesitation, tells the story. That night, as I lay in bed once again in what had once been my granddaughter's room, I felt a strange mixture of satisfaction and sadness. Revenge wasn't sweet in the way fairy tales make it sound. It was cold, calculated, and strangely lonely. But it was necessary. They had underestimated me, and in doing so, they had given me the perfect opportunity to reclaim not just what was mine, but my own sense of dignity and power. And I knew, as I drifted off to sleep, that the next chapter of this story, the real confrontation, the point of no return, was approaching. The house felt different now, almost vibrating with the tension that hung like thick fog in every room. I could see it in their faces, Claire's careful avoidance, Jason's rigid stance, even the way my grandchildren peeked at me from corners, sensing that something in the air had shifted. I didn't yell, I didn't storm. I didn't have to. Power doesn't need volume, it needs precision. That morning, I called a meeting. I had them sit in the living room, all of them tense, fidgeting, trying to appear calm. The air was heavy with unspoken accusations, and I reveled in the knowledge that I was finally in control. "Let's not waste time," I began, my voice steady, each word deliberate. "You left me out in the cold last week, and I want to make something very clear. That night was not just about inconvenience. It was about betrayal. And betrayal has consequences." Claire's lips trembled. "Mom, please, I raised a hand. "No excuses. You didn't consider me, you didn't care about my safety, and you thought I'd just forgive and forget. You underestimated me, and that is your mistake." Jason shifted uncomfortably, and I could see the panic growing behind his calm exterior. I pulled out a folder I'd prepared, a neat stack of documents that would have stunned anyone not paying attention. "These are the legal adjustments I've arranged," I said, letting my fingers brush the papers with a casual elegance. "Portions of the estate, property rights, even control over some of your accounts. All of it, fully legitimate. All of it, mine." The room fell silent. I could hear the clock ticking, a slow, steady reminder of the inevitability I had brought to life. Claire's eyes welled up, Jason's jaw tightened, and for the first time, the arrogance and smugness that had defined their behavior crumbled completely. "You can fight it," I continued, voice softer now but no less deadly, "but I've already consulted the attorneys. Everything is in order. The house, the accounts, the assets, they are under my claim. You treated me as disposable, as a guest who could be ignored or locked out. Now, you'll feel the weight of that mistake." Claire began to sob quietly, covering her face with her hands. I didn't move to comfort her. Comfort wasn't the point anymore. Understanding was. I wanted them to see clearly that actions have consequences, and betrayal has a price. Jason's hand twitched toward the coffee table, perhaps to argue, perhaps to strike, but he stopped himself. He knew there was no escape from the truth I presented. I could see it in his eyes, the fear, the recognition that for once, he was powerless. I let the pause linger. Silence was my ally now. Every breath, every glance, every tiny gesture from them spoke volumes. And then I smiled. Not cruelly, but with the calm satisfaction of someone who had spent decades underestimated and finally proven that they could not be ignored. "You know," I said quietly, "I didn't want it to come to this. I wanted love. I wanted family. But you chose betrayal. And now, you live with it." I left the living room without another word, letting the weight of my presence settle into every corner. Upstairs, I gazed out the window at the first snow of the season, soft flakes drifting lazily to the ground. I thought of the cold night when I had been left out, the fear and humiliation, and I realized something. Revenge isn't about hurting others. It's about reclaiming yourself. It's about standing in the place you were denied and saying, "I am here, I am whole, and I will not be overlooked." That night, I slept deeply, with a sense of justice, a sense of closure, and yet, a quiet sadness lingered. Victory is never without cost, and family ties, even broken ones, leave a mark on the heart. But I had done what I needed to do. I had reclaimed my dignity, my home, and my voice. Tomorrow, there would be apologies, attempts to negotiate, and the awkward dance of acknowledgement. But tonight, I allowed myself a rare moment of peace, wrapped in the quiet warmth of a house I had taken back, not with force, but with intelligence, patience, and unwavering resolve. The days after the confrontation were quiet, almost surreal. Claire avoided my gaze at first, tiptoeing around the house as if any wrong word might shatter the fragile truce I had imposed. Jason spent hours on the phone, trying to navigate the legal adjustments I had made, each call a subtle reminder that the balance of power had shifted completely. I didn't revel in their panic anymore. That chapter had passed. What remained was understanding, the quiet, undeniable truth that betrayal leaves scars, but reclaiming your dignity heals them in ways nothing else can. I spent my mornings walking through the rooms of the house, touching the furniture, opening drawers, arranging things just as I liked. Every corner, every small detail, was a testament not only to ownership, but to survival. Claire eventually approached me one afternoon, soft and hesitant. "Mom, I'm sorry," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. There was no defense, no excuse. Just acknowledgement. It was a start. I nodded slowly, letting her words settle. "I forgive you, Claire," I said. "But don't mistake forgiveness for weakness. This house, this life, it's mine as much as it is yours. Respect that. Honor it. And never forget what happens when you choose betrayal over love." Her tears fell freely, not just for me, but for herself too. I understood that. I had been angry, yes, and I had taken steps to ensure they could never hurt me like that again, but in the end, love and family linger in quiet corners. Even when tested by pain, Jason remained silent, his usual bravado gone. He avoided eye contact, but there was a subtle shift in his posture, a newfound humility I hadn't seen before. Power doesn't always need to be displayed with words or fists. Sometimes, it's quiet. Sometimes, it's internal. And I had learned that even in old age, I could command it fully. As winter deepened, I spent more time by the fireplace, my cup of tea steaming in my hands, listening to the faint creaks of the house settling around me. I reflected on the night I had been left out in the cold, shivering on the porch, feeling betrayed and abandoned. That night had changed me. It had revealed the sharp edges of human behavior, the cruelty people are capable of, even those you love most. But it had also revealed my own strength, patience, and cunning. Revenge had been sweet, yes, but the real triumph was subtle. It wasn't about destroying them, it was about reclaiming myself, my home, and my dignity. I had faced betrayal and emerged not just intact, but stronger, wiser, and unafraid. And in the quiet of that reclaimed house, I realized something vital. No matter your age, no matter your circumstances, you always have the power to take back what is yours. You always have the ability to rise from betrayal, cold and calculated, and turn pain into justice. I am Margaret Sullivan, 72 years old. I was locked out, left in the cold, betrayed by the people I loved most. And I survived. I reclaimed my house. I reclaimed myself. And in doing so, I learned that the truest revenge isn't rage, it's power, patience, and unwavering self-respect. As I watched the first snow settle softly on the garden, a small smile curved across my lips. I had won, not just against them, but against the fear, the pain, and the humiliation that once held me prisoner. And tonight, for the first time in a long time, I felt free.